Oh, Danny told me he was gonna do a no shirt, no sleeves,
That's right. I
and
told you.
he did it. Well, I mean, when in Florida,
Yeah, it's
you might
hot.
as well. I mean, you're in Florida. I mean,
Super hot. I gotta find a good spot in this parking lot.
cool.
Yikes.
Okay, glad you're here, Tim. Hey, brother.
Hey,
So it's like 25 degrees here and y'all are in short sleeve shirts and I'm extremely jealous because I have my heater on high.
Yeah.
It
it's
happens.
actually 0 degrees Celsius outside and only 18 inside. So yeah, I just running hot right now.
I'm running hot right now.
And we're gonna jump in. We're going to probably skip the actual visualization tonight because there's so much to go through. And it's going to be in a way that you can actually consume and absorb this information. So I'm excited. So a recap, over our first 3 weeks, we were focusing on certain skills, certain techniques that help us increase our visualization power, our awareness, and emotional regulation. So we haven't been focusing specifically on what I consider my life's work, right? The book, the full course. Now, what's really cool about that segue is that it gave me, and I judge, and I know from talking to many of y'all, from the feedback I'm hearing, a lot of new tools to kind of get us all on an even playing field so that we can move forward without it just being so different and so overwhelmingly off the wall. We've spent 3 weeks together getting into this space. So what's really cool about that is that when I first designed the program to be given as step by step, which is 9 steps, and would take at least 9 weeks, or to even double up would be 2 at a time. When I came back to the material and decided how do I want to chunk it today, it speeds up the whole process. So I judge that we are all going to be able to grab this information because we all have that schema, that experience, a little bit of a background in a deep way that goes beyond just the words, that we're going to be able to pick this up. And also I'm going to be highlighting the first 3 steps, which are part of the asleep creator consciousness. And it's almost even better to understand it that way. It's not like, here's one step for this piece, here's one tool. The tools that I teach go for each creator state. So all the tools are better used within the asleep creator consciousness, not 1 for mundane, number 2 process for crisis, right? So they're going to make sense when we're in these certain frame of consciousness, and you're going to understand it as we go forward. So first, before we actually jump into the training, I want to check in and do a look back. Does anybody who has an experience to share with either a testimony, a challenge, a awareness that fits and they want to share with the group? Because if it happened to you, I guarantee you're not the only one. So give yourself a minute. I'm going to look at my notes and get myself back on track here before I get started. And if y'all have nothing to share, I'm going to share one of mine. Regardless, I'll share mine anyway. But I want to hear from you because I've talked to several of y'all and I know there are breakthroughs happening on the screen and off the screen. So it's a good opportunity to share today. So anybody want to share? And I'm kind of looking at you, Tracy. I mean, come on now. Come on.
Fine. So I sometimes it's hard to put this stuff into words, but I had a conversation with Anthony yesterday. It feels like a month ago, but I think it was
yesterday.
But when we were talking, it's like as we were talking, I just had this like major breakthrough, crying, thinking about things. But one of the things that I was really came to me is how I thought that keeping my house in disarray was about keeping people out, but it was really, and I'll get emotional, it was really about keeping me further away from God in a way. Like I don't feel worthy of that. And that if I keep that at distance, and even today it makes me emotional, it's like becoming aware of that, because when I'm in my space and it's peaceful and relaxed and I have my music going and my, you know, smells going and all the stuff that makes me feel really centered, is when I feel like that's my threshing floor with God. And I know that sometimes I make that clutter or chaos because I don't always feel comfortable in that place. But I don't think I realized that till yesterday. So again, Anthony had to deal with the tears, but I think by now he's probably used to that. So
I'm used to that.
thank you.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you just remember you kind of touched on some of these things a couple of weeks ago, and the work never stops, right? The epiphany is always a layered onion of itself, right? I can hear something, I can get the hint and have a breakthrough, and then a few days later, how long does it last, for example, right? But you are hearing it, you went through kind of a loop, right? We got the paradoxes started showing up because you increased your awareness, right? You started seeing patterns. And what we find in this work, specifically when we bring the spirituality to the manifestation process in our life, things happen faster. What's cool about this that we have to understand, it's not just a linear path that goes faster. It's everything is faster. So the cycle of me getting up and falling down, me now crawling a little bit further before I stumble happens. And it happens faster and faster and faster. I call it that refractory period. And it happens over and over and over again until something breaks loose. Now you're able to do that, Tracy, because you're being supported, right? You have a background that you're bringing to where you're at. This is not your first rodeo of self-development. It's about merging the information, right? Wherever gap you have in that understanding, integration, you're going to meet resistance until you remove that wall. And then as we're talking, I might, you just opened up, right? Just having this experience. It wasn't and again, you said tears, but it was like they just came out of nowhere. They didn't seem painful. They were just, there's tears, right? And
No, it was that I'm awake. Like,
yeah,
I'm awake because it's like I didn't realize. And coming into this work, that was one of the things I've like felt really called to come back to my faith, if you will. And it's like I feel it, but I've ignored it. It's kind of like I'm listening, but I'm ignoring it. But it's really interwoven. I mean, like all of this is very interwoven.
absolutely. Awesome. Great awareness. Thank you for sharing that. I want to share something from the client I'm working with, who is not in the group because of such a conflicts, but he's a one-on-one client. And the experience he had recently, I want to share with you because I feel like this group is the target, my target. Nobody in this group is brand new to meditation. No one in here has never prayed before, right? We're not starting at baby steps. This is already an advanced class, right? No, Danny's like, fuck yeah. Right. So here's what I'm talking about. And that's what I like to work with. Tracy, you were talking about somebody in a religious leadership who's broken by the establishment. I'm running into that more and more and more. And that's where the leadership part is coming in. I'm like, not surprised, because I have gone through my own cycle of what do I believe? Who do I believe in? Me, him, us, and it all comes tumbling down. And you get afraid to say anything because it's always wrong to somebody. Therefore, it's wrong to everybody by the time I take it in and don't do my work. So thank you for sharing that story because of that piece. This gentleman has done a lot of work, right? He's a brother for all the brothers here, right? We're talking like, over 10 years and dealing with post-divorce stuff. We're talking 4 or 5 years post-divorce, extreme parental alienation, right? And he won, by the way. He won in court. He won. And yet he lost the battle anyway, right? With all the things he's going through. So he won. Yay. So what? Right? Now, he's very physical. He does a lot of meditation. He knows his stuff. He does a lot of different modalities. I won't say all of them because that eventually would be, letting out too much information, but he knows how to do things I don't know how to do. And yet he's focused on the injustice of it all, right? So for the guys here who know, he's very warrior, right? Using that warrior. The warrior sees, the warrior acts, right? I'm a hammer, everything's a nail kind of stuff. Can unfortunately be a trap of the warrior mentality. So in the situation, right, how do we get through? Now, use the male terminology, but also for women, right? That part of us that we had to hustle and strive and struggle, and we see a problem and I'm not going to give up, which means I'm going to fight. When we say it that way, that means we're going to pick up the sword and we're going to go to battle, right? Because we're not going to give up. And it kind of loses that purity because am I doing it for you? Am I doing it for when there's kids involved? Am I doing it for my kids? Or am I doing it for other people to see me so I can tell the story of how hard I struggled and lost, right? So it's all about what do we do when we go through. So this gentleman is really, really struggling with this painful stuff. And he's gone through several stages working with me of letting it go, including making some legal choices and letting it go so he can find his peace. However, kind of like what you were talking about, Trace. So again, it's all perfect. And again, we're talking about the first 3 steps. So this is, again, just organically going to end up being exactly what it was supposed to be tonight. We cycle through these epiphanies. We cycle through our determination. We cycle through our conviction. We cycle through our faith. And that's part of the damn journey. I mean, that's part of what makes me so convicted and powerful now is I've already lost my faith so many times. No one's going to take it away from me now, right? So in his situation, every time the memory, the pain, when the girls were talking to him a certain way because they've been programmed by their mom and blah, 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 the injustice of it all. So all of a sudden letting it go went away. And it was the suffering over the injustice of it all. Now he had a breakthrough a week ago and came to that epiphany again. I looked at him and I said, hey, I'm happy for you. You've done this at least 4 or 5 times in the 6 months we've been working together. What are you going to do this time to remember this when it all comes back all over again and you're raging against the injustice of it all and what's right and wrong, right? And he's like, I don't know. So we took the break, we went off, have a week apart. And then we come back and I said, we're doing a check-in. He's just like, has a different look on his face. And I'm like, what's up? And he's like, dude. And I know that Daniel, you made a comment similar to this because the awake process sometimes take longer, like for it to make an impact, right? But this awake process, we do it, it's a lifelong thing, right? We do it for life. I'm using a spin on techniques that makes it powerful for me and for everyone else I teach, but noticing your thoughts, every person's been talking about that for a long time. Right. So just want to acknowledge you when you made your comment, because you're going to appreciate what this man's experience is. So he is explaining to you what happened. And normally he's just staring at the camera. He's very masculine, big, muscular guy. And I would say a harsh talker, like the way he talks is like da, 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 very staccato. And he's just like, all of a sudden he's looking around. He's like, I was curled up like a baby in my bed and I was just in pain and my stomach was spasming and I had these just tears just pouring out of me. Like I'm just hanging on the edge of the bed, like I'm going to end it. And he's mentioned, he's not going to end it, but he has those thoughts. He has those thoughts, right? He's very aware of the thoughts. And so, right, he manages that because he's been through this pain for so long. He's gone through this thing for years, And so he's sitting there explaining to me, and he's like, and something just happened. And I was like, what do you mean it happened? He's like, well, I was just noticing, the pain, and I could let it go, and I have let it go, but I don't, but this is wrong, and this is right. And I'm just looking at this pool of tears around me, and I'm starting to figure out where he's going with this, right? He's like, I'm just shut up now and let him talk. And he's like looking at his hands, he's just looking around, he's totally in the moment. I just realized, like, I created these tears. I was like, yeah. He's like, And I remembered he's doing what I've been trying to get him to do for 6 months, right? He's like, and I remembered that before the tears, I felt my body hurt, my heart hurt, my chest tightened, and it made me curl over, and that's what caused the tears from coming out and the pain. But I also remembered that before that happened, I was thinking of my girls and me and the conversations with people and money and time and space, and I'm seeing them, and he's playing the movie, right? He's talking me through the movie in his head. And I realized, like, I remember that the thoughts in my head that I was thinking of and created the pain in my body, and then created the tears out of my body. And he goes, and I realized, if I can do this, because I created this. He looks up at the camera and he's like, what if I flipped it? And he looks right in the camera and goes, I'm awake. He's like, I'm fucking awake. He's like, oh, I'm awake. He was very evangelistic all of a sudden, right? And he's like, just like a whole other person, right? His face changed right before my eyes, right? The grin was just like massive, like, and I know that he's experienced before in his life, like many of us have, but he understood by doing the techniques enough over and over and over again to track from tears manifesting backwards to the moments of he could have chose to think about something different, but he waited too long. And that's when it manifested that. And that's a good thing, because now he realizes that he creates everything. And I was like, and I highlight that because generally I find that those of us who have done this work through organizations can get a little stuck in the routine. Of course, Tim's like, of course we can do a lot of stuck, right? But you get the point, right? Because it's not that it's bad, right? His breakthrough was just that more powerful because of how he worked and earned that. Now he's got it in a way that when it comes back, because it will, it's anchored in a way like never before. So, and I have those moments every couple of weeks myself. And I have to keep them to myself when I want to reach out to somebody and complain, and I want to make a text about something, or I want to post it on Facebook that I know I'd probably get 100 likes on. I'm like, that's not me. And there's so many posts that I write and then delete before I post them. You just wouldn't, it's nuts. It's like I go through the exercise and I'm like, just delete it. Save it as a draft, right? Write that email, save it, come back and then go, ooh, no. So that inspired me to pull out some quotes from, again, most of y'all know I'm a fan of Michael Singer. If you already were before you met me, or you were after you met me. So here's one from The Untethered Soul, The Journey Beyond Yourself. Do not let anything that happens in life be important enough that you're willing to close your heart over it, right? Have the fight, walk away, but none of it's worth actually closing off our hearts, right? You know, I work with a lot of divorcing people. So be happy and stay, be happy and go. Don't close your heart off, because then the pattern's going to repeat itself and you won't realize your part until 2 or 3 other relationships. And then it's even more painful when that wake up call happens. Like, do it now. Do it now. Do it now. Like, Danny definitely knows what I'm talking about. So another quote, and then we'll move on. Eventually, you will see that the real cause of problem is not life itself. It's the commotion the mind makes about life that really causes problems. When a problem is disturbing you, don't ask, what should I do about it? Ask, what part of me is being disturbed by it? And I went through that this weekend in the middle of a crazy mall. And a friend in an emergency room, and my debit card not working, and trying to hang out with my daughter. And out of nowhere, a client walks out of the blue and puts his hand on my shoulder. I meet his wife for the first time, right? like just total synchronicity. And he says to me, this is kind of crazy. And I'm thinking to myself, he has no idea how crazy this is. Like, he woke me up. He has no idea. And I look at him and said, you keep doing this work, it goes from crazy to funny to interesting to someone else is going to be the one that pointed out to you, because you'll be like, what? Oh yeah, happens all the time, right? Just welcome to your life. Sorry, not sorry. So, all right. So definitely feel like it's the Anthony show tonight. So hope y'all are enjoying. Now let's get into any parting words before we jump into the material. Any comments, questions, anything you're stuck on that I can address before we jump into the deep dive here?
I like the don't close your heart. That's huge. That's huge for me personally. Just because there's situations that I get put in like weekly, if not daily, where I have to look at the other person on the other side and understand that I still see the light in them. I'm not going to close my heart to them, even though it's really bad coming back the other way. So it is a great feeling to like be able to be in the content state and not push back. So I like just don't close your heart up.
Beautiful. Beautifully said. Yeah. And I mean, I realized tonight I could do the entire hour and a half giving you stories like the one I just gave you, because I've had several men specifically this week that have had breakthroughs where they realized when they just didn't do anything, the miracle happened right before their eyes by not doing a damn thing, which is doing a lot. Turning inward is a lot. It may look like not doing something when we know in this group, you're doing a lot more than the other person sometimes, because you're keeping it all inside, being in tune, being connected, being alive, being awake, versus just defaultly going from action to action to action to action, never really getting a sustainable result. So epiphanies all around. So thanks everybody. And I will say one more thing. I have the benefit of working with people in this group and outside of the group. So what I've been sharing this last week is that when I've done this with the one-on-ones, I see miracles happen off and on, but I don't notice them as much because it's individual. I noticed the wave when, and again, Danny, Daniel, there's other people that aren't on the call that have experienced this, where we're all like going through something at the same time. We're all breaking through at the exact same time. I'm getting to see that all the time now that we have this group started, because I'm seeing men and women that are not showing up for this, not watching the videos, have an epiphany and aha that's literally in tune with what we're doing. We're all connected. And since we live in a mirror universe, I get to see my reflection in all of you and all the one-on-one sessions too. And y'all are all reflections of me as we build this community. We're one organism, parts of the one. So there we go. That's my little rant today. Now, let's see. We're talking about, okay, now going through this, we're going to focus on the asleep phase, right? The asleep creator consciousness. This is known as the lower energy frequency. It's a common stage from where we suppress our emotions and self-worth in service to others and the projections of who we are within that space. Also, it's called an area where we have conditional living. In default action, we're reactive, little to no emotional regulation, right? We only perceive reality as an addiction with action attached, right? Everything with our reality is action-based. We have to react. We have to take action. We can't just sit. We can't just be. Everything's an action, right? Everything's a nail and we're the hammer kind of concept. So now within that, we have 3 states of being within this one. We have the mundane, we have the crisis, and we have the journey. So when we're in the mundane, we have a challenge with our feelings. We're numbed out. So what we have to do is become aware of our feelings, or else we're going to get stuck in life and suffering. So this shows us that with a lack of awareness, we're going to slip into default action, repeat behavior, the patterns emerge. The pain comes back. Figure this is better than just looking at me only. So hopefully it helps you follow along. Again, this is going to be sent to everybody in a PDF form, both the map form and the actual just straight up outline once I upload this and send everybody. So hear me out and follow along if you can. So when we're asleep, when we're in the mundane, we want to seek and become aware of our feelings because we have a lack of awareness, right? We have suppressed our emotions, so we therefore are numbing out, right? We're really surrendering to the warrior at this point. We're forced to use our senses, our eyes and our ears, and we keep reacting because where else are we going to make our choices? We were stuck with stimulus and we're reactive. Now, when we increase our awareness, that is the number one thing we have to do to move out of the mundane. So you already know this process. That's the I'm awake process. By becoming aware of our thoughts throughout the day, our awareness of our emotions is automatically going to rise. Now, what happens with this? Then we go from mundane to crisis. We will get triggered when we get out of the mundane. That's why it's a gift. So back to the mundane, we want to understand that you have to break up with your identity. Reality is your creation. We want to choose the sacred over the mundane. So the mundane is the boring part. We're numbed out. We use the I am awake process. Now, we're using the I am awake process. Remember, we've already heard this more than once. We're going to wake up in the morning, grab that first thought, hold on to it, choose a satisfying thought, and then we're going to feel it in our body. When that happens, we've now created reality. We double down, do that throughout the day. Eventually, you're going to notice the words coming out of your mouth, and you're going to be waking up in the middle of your speech. You're going to shut up. You're going to stop talking. You're going to stop telling that story. You're going to not need to finish that thought. Well, it's so hard. Well, if I say it's hard, then it's going to be hard, right? It's really understanding the power of your thoughts to the point of you're not going to tell the ugly joke because it ain't funny, right? Not really. That power of awareness increases, okay? So we do that process over and over and over again. We're going to stay awake by doing that. Now, we want to understand there's some questions we want to look at within the mundane. Might help you understand if you're in it and you don't realize it. What are the risks of staying in the mundane? Meaning, right, do I want to file for the divorce, not file a divorce? Do I want to have a conversation with my partner, my boss, whatever? Are you suffering because you're afraid to step into crisis? You're afraid to rock the boat, right? So now, why do I want to get out of the mundane? Because we're here to be happy. We're not here to suffer and be bored, right? When we're afraid to risk anything, we end up losing it anyway, more often than not. So the risk it's a what's at risk process, right, guys, all the time. Do I want to be bored and lose it anyway? Or do I want to take a chance and lose what I have and actually be happy? Right now we're inspiring. We're like living like kids again when we look at this stuff and we take a step forward and we take a change. Now, moving from the mundane, because we do this awareness piece, I'm awake, we're then going to step into crisis. Something's going to trigger you. You're either going to be sad, depressed, or angry. This is a good thing because now our awareness is up. It's a gift. If we look at crises as things to avoid and then we make them awful and we attach meaning to them, someone dies. Oh my gosh. Yes, it is painful, but how long do you live that pain, right? I actually talked about this a second here. We want to break up with yourself. That is a process you want to learn in this stage. When we're in crisis, if we're triggered and unhappy, we have an attachment to an outcome. We're afraid of potential loss. I cannot lose my partner, my job, my family member, right? We want to break up with that identity. It will only lead to suffering down the line because it's based on attachment. When we lose these things, all of a sudden my identity is shaken. That's a problem. That causes a crisis. If something happens outside of me and I experience pain, that shows I'm out of alignment with my faith because the reality is we're more than flesh and bones. With today's tools, we have been shown that we are more than space. We are more than mass. We're more space than mass. In between that space is light, right? They have the technology. When they scan our bodies, we're not tissue. There's more space between our cells than cells. And within that space, what do they see? A whole lot of light. So we know we are more than this meat suit. When we're under crisis, whether it's an actual tragedy or a psychological tragedy, we forget that we are never ending. We forget the truth of our existence, that we never die. So we want to remember that when we're in crisis, because the reaction our body is having is the one telling us, no, Anthony, I have to do something right now. I know Tim has shared things in the last couple of weeks where he's had moments where he could have reacted, but he didn't, right? The body is telling him one thing, but he had the presence of mind to settle his body down and make a different choice. When the body was reacting to patterns of the past, just trying to keep him safe, but using his higher brain functioning, he can walk around in life and not just be a responsive robot that is never going to be happy and always threatened, right? That's what we find a lot when we go through a breakup and we decide, I'm going to have a checklist for everyone in the future, and I'm going to look for red flags. Well, if you look for red flags, ding, ding, you're going to find them because it's all out there. So I'd rather you look for God in everything than the devil in everything. That would serve you much better, right? Look for God everywhere, not the devil, because you're going to find him. You're going to find him.
Heaven or hell.
Heaven or hell, yeah. So break up with yourself. So break up with yourself is going to help you whenever you're in crisis. So there's an ego attachment when we're in pain. So this is different than when we're in the mundane. When we're numbed out, we're asleep, right? We're unconscious. Life is blasé. We use the I am awake process to wake up, because the longer we're awake, we're going to go, you know what? I don't like this. We're going to get triggered. And that is the gift, the mirror reflection, however you want to look at it, saying, do you want more of this or do you want to change it? Because you can change it, but our reaction to it is what keeps it alive. So we will see these loops. We're talking about this paradox lately, right? The loop and the paradox will keep coming until we change the reaction, because we can't change the mirror without breaking the mirror and it fixes itself over and over again. That's manipulation. That's convincing your partner that they were wrong when they accused you, and you're validating yourself and proving them wrong. They're going to cycle back again, and they're going to call you a gaslighter, and they're going to say you manipulated them if they didn't come to their own epiphany on their own, right? So we don't get anywhere by using force anymore. We have to step back and we do our work and let others do their work, because only they can do it if we want lasting change. So break up with yourself. I'm a single dad, right? I'm a non-custodial parent, right? I've had challenges with finances. I've moved for my daughter so many times that no one would give me a job, because they'd ask the question, well, if your dog moves again, are you gonna move? I would say, absolutely, right? When I could just lie, right? So there are labels that we live by. If the label of mother, if the label of father, if the label of is the excuse to suffer, when it comes to letting the pain go, you got to drop it. We're not saying you're not the mom, you're not a dad. We're saying when you're in crisis, when we're remembering the quote from Michael Singer, right? In that state, we have to let that go, because it cannot serve you. Because if my attachment, my pain is, I absolutely have to have this person give me the outcome or else, we're actually pushing them further away. We're actually creating more of a problem than a solution. And it's masked by, well, I care. I don't give up. I insert some kind of trendy social media post that's being popular. I'm a blank. Yeah, you're more than that. I am. Let's focus on that. So it's better to be a nobody than a somebody when it comes to letting things go and getting back to our bliss. So that's one of the processes. We already know the I'm awake process. Now, when we've talked about before, it's going to help when we are going through these 3 different steps is the sacred space. So you already heard this before from the beginning process, right? So we're going to recap it today. Sacred space requires us choosing the sacred over the mundane. This is part of the crisis, part of the journey, part of getting out of the mundane. When you choose the sacred over the mundane, it means you have to find something in your life and give it meaning. So selecting a space in your home that you treat as boring and mundane, it is forgetful, you have an opportunity to make it sacred again. And Tracy's been sharing some beautiful stuff about it, right? I know that I've worked with several men, and myself included, I go through phases when I don't want to be in a relationship, but I say I want to, I could subconsciously screw myself up. I can have my entire space looking really great, but I will leave my bedroom a fucking disaster. So there's no way I'm going to have a woman in there, right? So why bother going on a date? Well, if the date goes well, I'm going to feel anxious if I say, well, we can't go to my place. So don't go on the date. Don't even bother. Don't even try. Holy smokes, right? Clean my bedroom. Probably will have somebody in there very quickly, right? If I get out of my own damn way, if that's really what I want to do. So, we create sacred spaces where we need to give attention in our life. So as I wrote these notes today specifically, choose with intention to recognize your divinity and make a sacred space in your home. This will be great when you forget to wake up, right? Because you forget the process, right? You've heard me talk about the coffee maker, right? Is a sacred space for me. If I get through my morning, one of my cups of coffee is going to be my, oh crap, I did not remember to wake up, because I've made it sacred. I'm not just pouring coffee. I'm putting intention into my coffee. I'm blessing my coffee. I'm thinking about what am I going to do next when I sip this coffee. I make sure I sip the coffee. I'm like, I want to enjoy it and not just chug it down, and consume. I make drinking my coffee sacred. And sometimes that's the only damn moment I will that entire day, especially when I get my momentum going up and I drop my self-care, which is why it's important to create the sacred space. And here's why. Further, after you start creating your sacred space, you want to create more sacred space in your actual life. So creating your home where you're the one that just fights with yourself, right? Clean your bathroom. No. Clean your bathroom. No. Make your bed. No. That's your battle. It's easier to do it that way. Now, eventually, you want to create your sacred life, because this is your sacred ceremonial life. And we tend to forget it. It's always there, though, if you open your eyes and if you're awake. So we want to look for what relationships have become mundane and boring. It doesn't matter the conditions. Those are still just excuses to choose the mundane over the sacred. So you want to flip that. You can ask yourself, where are you treating yourself like you are mundane? You're where we're going this way. Create a sacred space in your home. Look at the other areas of your life that you're not treating with sacredness and holiness and worthiness. And then you realize you're ignoring your own sacredness. Where are you making yourself boring, mundane, and a label? Divorced dad, broken dad, right? Insert any of these labels that we put in. If we're living in the mundane, everything is hard, everything is painful, and it's still kind of a numbing pain. So ignoring self-care is a strong indication that you don't remember how worthy you are. Not taking showers, not eating right, saying, well, I have to do this because I am a blank. You can really only do that for short periods of time, right? For any of us who study Joe Dispenza, there's no living organism on the planet that can live in survival mode for an extended period of time. Eventually, the organism starts to destroy itself at a cellular level. If you have to serve your kids, if you have to serve others on a retreat, if you have to work really, really, really hard and shut yourself down, you have to do it with intention and choose to do it so it happens for the shortest period possible. Because once you're done, you can go, I am awake, and get back on target as fast as possible so you can take charge and reverse that impact, because everything's going to have an impact, right? Think about anything long enough in your head, you're going to feel a sensation in your body, and then we're just seconds to days away from it manifesting in our physical reality, and then we're going to go, it's their fault. And then we're believing the illusion and we're asleep again. You with me? Awesome. Another process And I would say this one specifically is going to really help us out with enjoy the journey. We haven't talked about this yet, so we're going to jump in here. Enjoying the journey. So this is exciting. We're finally into the new stuff. As you want to say something real quick, Danny?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Real quick. So, your outline, this outline, I just want to say, like, if you guys follow this outline, I've done these steps and like he's reading them off and and it's like, it's in my brain. Like he's writing it out in my brain that I did in real life, and it works. It fucking works. So
And I just taught you all verbally, right? So yeah, the
Yeah,
challenge
verbally.
is documenting it. So that's why I created the
Mhm.
class to do it.
It's amazing. Like follow along.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yep.
you. Awesome. Yeah, and he has another example of the shield here in a second that I think he can share, but we'll come to that. So what's really interesting, the way I've designed this, it's 3 creator consciousness, right? Asleep, awake, being. The final step, there's 3 steps, right? There's a total of 9. So the third step is the breakthrough step. It's the one that's going to launch you through to the next one. So when we're going from mundane, no awareness, numbed out, and painful, right? Monotonous, patterns, reactive. Then we get triggered. We naturally are going to go through a crisis. We want to do it intentionally because we're working on our self-awareness. If we don't, it's going to happen anyway. We've all gone through it, right? It's still default. Now, when we get through the crisis, we also experience joy. So we have all experienced a spontaneous awakening. We've all experienced true joy that came out of somehow nowhere, right? Again, our physiology, you pick any modality. I created mine from scratch through my life experience. You pick any modality, yoga, breath work, right? You pick anything that's been around long enough, and through the law of assumption, do it and practice it and believe it, they're all going to yield the same results. They're going to break through. You're going to change your life. What we want to do is find what works for us in our belief system. So it's not somebody else's process. And if I don't do it right, therefore something's wrong with me. And I'm trying just one more thing that's not working, or one more thing that only worked for 6 weeks, right? With this program, we know the subconscious mind is going to be the one that says it's not working anymore, because the reality is it's always working through these pieces. And we're going to get to that. So excited to go from crisis to enjoying the journey. When we understand how to release the pain by breaking up with our identity, breaking up with the ego and the self, right? Because we know we're sacred and we're awake. We now see, after the crisis, we now surrender all of a sudden. We have the epiphanies. We see things differently. So when we enjoy the journey, something happens. We understand that heaven and hell exist at the same moment in space and time. We just now believe that we're still worthy. The illusion is that we're in hell and we're not worthy. The truth is that we're in heaven and we forgot how worthy we are. It's better to assume that we are already in heaven on earth. All we have to do is wake up and stay awake. The crises are the temptations. We can either give into them or not. And when we give it up to God, give it to your higher power, whatever it is that you choose to, that resonates with you consistently, there's going to be an effect. We're going to tap that joy much more often. We're going to have control over it. Now, how can you help this happen more often? You got to build a shield. You've got to build a shield. And again, for the Mankind Project guys, we know shield to an extent. My offer here is to redo your shield. The way I was taught the shield in organizational language, it was used with the warrior going to the battle, right? So to me, the simple act of carrying my shield, I'm already fighting. I'm looking for a problem. Guess what? I'm going to find it. Now, if we make it the psychic shield and it's internalized and we get really creative, it can be anything we want. It can be light. It can be a red chain from your sacrum to the center of earth that wraps around like a ball of yarn and you feel it pull you in. My first shield I created when I was 12 years old. It was spontaneous. I was under a psychic attack from a self-proclaimed Satanist, right? Crazy, down in the valley. And this guy is trying to mirror my mind. And I feel this enormous pressure and blackness around me. And I just started creating this shield. I created a brick wall. Without knowing what I know now, when the brick wall was formed, I saw every brick lay like in a cartoon. And I saw the cement, like, and I heard the sound of the cement being laid down. And I heard the like of watching a video game. I had a shield. Next thing that happened was I brought this chain, this steel cage down. And I remember hearing and feeling the weight of it hitting the ground, like, you know, and that slamming, you know, in the prison movies. Like, I heard all this. I'm 12 years old at a quinceañera outside, you know, under psychic attack. And I see this blackness coming around, and I'm like, okay, I need some more. Next thing you know, it's a white cone of light, and all of a sudden this like chain drops down and goes to the center of the earth, and it wraps around like a ball of yarn. And when it pulls tight, all of a sudden it went red from my body to the center of the earth. And I literally felt my heels dig in. And my entire life, when I went through massage therapy training, Reiki training, when I do the training with the men and the shield work, I got this shield down, bro. I got this shield down. Nothing gets through it unless I'm unconscious. So I invite you to create a shield, vivid image of a shield. Get really creative with it. It's supposed to be disruptive. So include your imagination, make it as real as possible. Practice using your shield anytime you sense you are not able to wake up. If you cannot wake up, if you can't say, I'm awake, put up your shield. Put up anytime you think you were under the influence of anybody other than your own thoughts. Because eventually the goal is to be able to stand under the fire in an attack, and you're able to maintain your energetic signature in the middle of the storm, walking through the crowd, getting blasted in court. Again, I taught Danny the shield first because he needed to have it down in a week. And he was in court a week later using the shield, and he was smiling. And let me tell you, he had no fucking reason to be smiling. Right? He was hearing all kinds of things that were not true, and he had his shield on, and he was seeing the person that was saying things about him from unconditional love behind his shield with a smile on his face, because he practiced it. I told him, he's brand new, I said, do this every day. Do not wait until you walk into court to use it. Use it every day until then. By that time, it's going to be easy, second nature, right? We practice using these tools of faith so that they're there when we need them, right? Don't wait until something is lost, start praying. You don't wait till there's a problem to go see a therapist, right? It's maintenance. If prayer can save our life, imagine what would happen if we just prayed because we want to be happy, because we want more, because not just because we want to heal somebody else, because we want them to be from sad to happy, from happy to blissed out, right? Don't look for pain as the only reason to use our faith. These tools are in us forever. So they're going to be able to use them as soon as you choose them, period. And it's up to us. And I can become lazy and not do them, even now. But when I do, ooh, that sweet piece comes back quickly, and it feels really good to stop hitting myself with a hammer on the head. Let me tell you what, every damn time. Okay, so again, enjoy the journey. If you enjoy the journey, you're going to enjoy the destination. So, right? Heaven and hell existing right here, right now. All we have to do is turn the other cheek, right? Don't see the leper. Because by looking at that, it is going by the laws of nature, the laws of the universe, whatever we give attention to is going to increase, period. It's not just that Jesus touched the guy and he was healed. Why? How? Jesus's belief in the man's cleanliness, in the man's divinity, removed the illness. We've already proven with science that religion is the truth. So using the laws of science that approve this. The law of attraction, law of assumption, law of thought transmission, quantum physics means he didn't address the dis-ease. He addressed the abundance, the holiness, the sacredness. So we all need to focus on the good, even in the chaos, even in the storm. Because if we focus on the storm is guaranteed to kill us. I'm on a whole level today, guys. We'll see. We'll see. just going off, Cortino. Obviously, I'm talking about my stuff. So
If you want, I can explain my shield
yeah, give them an example, because I think it's going to
really
help
quick.
them understand, what it was like for you. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, so Anthony brought up the shield, and described it similar to how he described to everyone today. And I mean, immediately I was so available to try and reach for something that was going to help me. I just immediately thought of a box, a clear plexiglass box that when I took a breath and just I actually looked up at, I can see it, it's physical. I can see it. I'll take a breath, and then I can put myself in that box where I can still see the world around me. I can still hear everything, but I'm safe. I'm like the world slows down. I'm breathing my own oxygen, my own air, my atmosphere, and nothing touches me. It's crazy. And I've turned that box into like a full body suit now. It's like a clear body suit, so I can. It's cool. And then yeah, use it, because if you use it enough, you won't even know you're using it when you have to. It'll just be there. And you're just like, oh yeah, like contentment over here while everything is chaotic, like Anthony said. So
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's my
Thank you.
shield. Yep.
Thank you. That way, because so you're able to see what you want to see versus what people are forcing you to try and see, right? The illusion, right? Make the disconnection happen. So some other points I want to share. My little PS, right? When others want to maintain conflict with you, they will try harder to break through your shield. So don't tell them about it. Don't tell everybody about your shield. You feel me, Tim? I love it. You're like, yeah. Because I have several people that, where it was one person that turned into the couple, and then one of them said, no, now we hate Anthony. And then I'm working with one of the people now, and they're doing great. And then all of a sudden it's, if they can get my client to break, then all of a sudden, oh, so I guess these things just don't work, right? And it could be once in a month, right? The partners just trying to come at them over and over and over again. And as soon as they go, that crap that he taught you didn't work, and all of a sudden, what do? They put a shield back up, they're like, whatever. They let it go, right? So don't tell everybody all your tricks, right? You're not manipulating anybody by protecting yourself. And I want you to hear this, because I know some people who don't want to use a shield because they think the disconnection means they're disconnecting. Hear this: unconditional love will always get through the shield. So that means there's never any excuse not to use it. No excuses. Love always gets through the shield. Every damn time. Every time. So don't use the excuse of, I want to be present and I can't. No, you'll be more present by using your shield than using any excuse to not protect yourself. Because then I'm not me. I'm your version of me in this moment. I'm the illusion. I am my history. I am my ego. I'm the wound I had 10 years ago. I'm the wound from a year ago, right? It kind of manifested this self the last couple of weeks. I've been dealing with a wound that resurfaced since last year. I'm not that person. Just because I have that thought come to my mind, I don't have to give it any attention. I can let it go. And I can not talk about it. And I can not make it something. It's just a thing, a thought in my head, right? So remember to breathe when your shield is up. Remember to breathe. I had to sit down at the mall yesterday when I was going through, it was Saturday, when I was going through this moment when I dealing with my friend in the hospital, in the emergency room. My daughter's running around with my debit card. It's not working. I'm fighting with people on text messages. They're not caring. I'm triggered. I'm running around the mall and there's all these people. I don't like crowds. I've never liked crowds. I'm in a massive crowd following 3 teenagers around the mall, right? I literally just found a place to sit down And I didn't care what it looked like. I just sat there, stared at the ground, and I thought about my shield. And I was like, when was the last time I took a breath? At that point, I don't care how stupid I look. I'd rather take care of myself and look stupid than look like a crazy person running around sweating and angry and frustrated, putting a fake smile on my face. Right? So let's be crazy, people. Let's be crazy. Let's do whatever it takes, right? You're important enough to do that. But a part of me said, no, I can't. I gotta know. I gotta do this. I gotta do this. I gotta do all these things. I gotta do. No, I gotta sit my ass down for as long as it takes because I'm no good to anybody right now. I'm no good to anybody. I'm not safe. I'm reactive. I'm asleep. So, poof, put the shield up, right? Let go of my ego. Why am I being triggered around money? That's my old shit. Let that go. Like all these things I'm showing you right now, I had to do them myself in that moment so I could get back to my happy place. And my daughter's like, man, we had a really great weekend. I'm like, yes. Like she was like kind of unaware of what dad was going through. So it was really cool. So we've talked about the shield. Oh, do it like, so a mental warrior is what I wanted to say, not a regular warrior, a mental warrior, like an athlete. And I always say that because professional athletes have a jump on us because as soon as the mindset piece was proving that the mental work was just as powerful as the actual work, the professional organizations with athletes were the first ones to adopt this en masse. They were bringing in the coaches. They were teaching them about their subconscious and their conscious mind. And look at the celebrities now who were just ball players, for example. Now they're huge influencers. And they're talking like they're freaking, age-old sages. Why? Because they've been doing mental work. And they weren't even aware that they were evolving and increasing their spiritual awareness by working on their visualization techniques. Everything you do affects everything you do. So just so train like an athlete, a mental warrior, not the physical warrior. That era is gone. We don't live in that world anymore. We actually don't have to fight for survival and kill each other for the food that someone's holding in their hand. We don't live in that world anymore. So we don't have an excuse to listen to the warrior all day long. We can keep doing it if you want and look at your life and how it's playing out. So just take awareness, take a breath. So we cover the shield, sacred space, breaking up with yourself. Beautiful. Those are the tools I wanted to cover. Those are the most significant tools plus the I'm awake process. So that's 4 tools within the asleep creator consciousness, right? So recap, mundane, our awareness is low. So we react to everything. When we're in crisis, our awareness is actually pretty high because now we're aware there's a problem. I don't like this. I'm now going to condemn it. I'm going to shame it. I'm going to lie about it when I tell the damn story, right? Because my heart's racing and I'm like, I have no control now. When we do it consciously, because we're awake, we go through a crisis as I don't want this car anymore. Not, it's a piece of crap and falling apart on me, right? Because guess what? It'll fall apart even faster. And y'all know I'm right. You know I'm right. Trust me, I had a BMW. I think I was happy for a month. Never again. Never again. Give me a Toyota. Give me a Nissan. Probably why I've had 6 Nissans in my life. I'm always happy with a Nissan or Toyota every day. So mundane, crisis, that's when we're triggered. That's when we're depressed. That's when the weekend of Thanksgiving, I mentioned to y'all last week, I was suffering, I was spiraling, and I just had to know I got to break up with myself because all the pain was remembering this person in my life and what they did to me and what was right? The injustice of it all. I had to let that go because that's not me. I have to remember I'm the one that walked away sometimes, right? Because I have a pattern. I recognize my patterns by doing this work. So when I notice that I'm shaming myself and I think I'm a cheater or I think I'm a liar or feeling all these like male, easy things to say, toxic, right? I look back when I'm awake, I recognize, wait a minute, I never did any of those things. These people just never dropped it. They never dropped it. They never dropped it. So they believed it, whether I agreed or disagreed with them anyway. So what happens? eventually I started believing it and started to act like I needed to prove I wasn't. I was giving into the illusion. And when I think about this one person, I have to recognize, no, 8 out of 10 women in my life did that. So did they do it or did I do it? Right? And then we go into the whole psychology of, let's find another book. Let's find another method. Let's find another label. They're all right. They're all correct. They all fit. Do they make you happy? Fuck no. Knowing that my parents did this and this, and therefore I took on this and this message, does not make me happy when I go, therefore I know I'm a blank and you're a blank. No, that's just disempowering labels. So break up with yourself. If your pain is associated to your history or fear the future, and a label that you're playing, a role that you're playing, or a label that's put on you, you want to break up with that, at least till you find your peace. You go back to being loving mom, you go back to being loving husband, but when you're suffering and unconscious, you gotta let that go. Yes, Danny.
So, yes, the ego thing is huge. It's so big. When I held on to my ego, the whole, like, I don't have to go into like all the labels and whatnot, but once you let that go and like break up with it, I felt like it was like a rebirth, right? So like I just, all the labels, expectations, everything that I put on myself or people put on me, I just dumped it, delete, and then rebirth.
Yeah.
And at that point, it made it just so much easier.
Because then you realize what? You're in the heaven and hell.
Heaven and hell, and I'm
You
going to
can
choose
see
heaven.
it clearly, right?
So
When you
clearly.
when you can see heaven, hell,
Duh, I'm going to choose that one.
that's why you're busting through to awaken, right? So when you enjoy the struggle in life versus looking at everything that's painful as the end of the world and something to talk about and share and condemn and persecute, hello drama triangle.
Yeah.
Right? It's just an excuse. When you can let it go and enjoy the process. So the car broke down today. So I got dumped today. Yeah, it sucks. But you know what? 10 years from now, I'm not going to care about this moment. So I can collapse time and space because time's an illusion, and I can be happy right now. I can assume my healing, right? I can assume and reject the dis-ease, right? So remember, so I study a lot of the law of assumption. So the way that phrasing goes, the explanation of that, was it Mark 1:41 or 41:1? I'm sure Jess will correct me. Jesus, so the way the law of assumption explains is Jesus didn't even see the leper and the man was healed, is the way it translates from that perspective. It's not man touching a man and then saying, I'm going to go in there and heal your body. No, it's, I don't even see the disease. I don't see your suffering. It's much easier, much more empowering to support each other from when we're standing outside of the hole, just shining the light versus getting in the hole with them. And now we're both the problem. Now we're two people no good to anybody. Hello. If that's not a sign of the devil, then what is? Right? If I get in the hole with you to prove something, then that means I don't think I'm worthy unless I prove something to you. Okay, let me get in the hole. Doesn't work. Not long term. It will work short term, which is where we get the whole chemical, like the whole dopamine addiction, all that kind of stuff, and learning all these complicated words, which still don't matter because they're just words. Yeah. So awesome. So we covered those 3 pieces. Now, what's beautiful about the next week when we talk about this is that once we transition from mundane to crisis to enjoying the journey, we awake. And we're automatically in our awake stage, which means we're going to pick up some new tools and we're going to drop the old tools. Our life is actually different now. So we can't operate the way we used to. Once we go through this process, we're already leaping through the awake stage. And now when we talk about that, now we're really having fun because now momentum speeds up. And the reason, and Tracy and I have talked about this recently, and of course, Danny already knows this, we have to have the new tools, or else when we encounter what used to be a crisis, we're going to behave the way we used to. So we got to keep using the shield. You're going to hear me talk about self-care in a whole new way next week, because self-care takes on a whole new meaning. When we're surviving versus thriving, self-care changes. It's moment to moment now. It ain't a bath on Sunday. It's too little too late. It's not just meal prep. You're going to want to be awake all the time. I'm awake. I'm awake. I'm awake. I'm awake. Why am I suffering? Am I suffering? Danny runs this a lot. Are you even suffering, Danny? No. But he can think he's suffering because he learned these techniques in the middle of a war zone. So when he's not getting the shoe thrown at him, proverbial shoe, right? He would call me like, I don't know. I'm just feeling, I'm like, dude, you're fine. You're just bored now.
Bored. Yeah.
So
It got easy.
And then what I would tell you, so what do? You notice that you're bored, which means I
Back in the
am awake.
mundane. Yeah, I went back into the mundane, so now I have to come back to the awakened state. Sure.
Yeah. If we
Yep.
can use our shield when we feel like we don't have any control, it's going to help us have the awareness to wake up. And again, use your own words. I think I am is a pretty good one. Put whatever you want. If it's seeing God, if it's seeing the universe, it has to make sense to you, or they are just words. And I would prefer to teach you how to fish. So you learn this stuff until you can make it your own. And then that's why there's no dogma. You're going to start seeing how everyone is saying the same thing. Every religion is ultimately saying the same truth, except for the people that are talking about it, right? Us humans are the ones that mess it up. I see Jess shaking her head like, hell yeah, it's us humans, right? I'm saying all these things, and I know I can only be so accurate. Whether y'all agree with me or not, I'm still human, but I'm a spiritual being in a human meat suit. So this is as close as it gets.
It all comes down to
for me.
love.
It all comes down to love and
Yep.
intent, right? So beautiful. Yeah, today was a little different, but I'm excited because I was able to jump in the material, and I think really you got to hear it all connected. Like Danny said, I've been teaching this for a couple of years in the moment to people, but the idea of step by step is kind of hard
Mhm.
because they are very fluid. So it's really coming down to and evolving to this process is going to be very, very long and different tools over time. And the mirror stuff that I'm bringing in and learning is going to come in there. More subconscious work is going to come into on the other stages because all these tools work. And I don't want anyone to do what I've done until I finally realize the truth. I don't want you to buy the book and read it and it changed your whole fucking life for 6 weeks or 6 days or 6 hours. I've dated women like that. So that one's a little personal dig for me. Like I was like, did you actually read the book or just listen to an audio tape for 12 minutes and then quoted it? And again, I've done it. Right. Also, you notice that book cover that book, what's it called? Bookmarker, never seen the move past chapter 2. I've done it. So I'm very good at noticing it too, because you're a reflection of me. So therefore, it's always a gift. It's only painful when I say, no, it's you and not me. Wrap. We got 10 minutes. Questions, feedback, aha moments, challenges. How can you use this in your life? Jess, how's this all resonating with you? Don't
Can you hear me?
Don't drop off the call trying to talk. Okay.
I know,
yes,
I don't know.
We can hear you.
I don't know how to do both. Okay,
Yeah.
Can you see me and hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. So yeah, I haven't been here in the last couple weeks. And I've been going through some challenges, and I hadn't been able to catch up on video. And but what was really awesome is that I felt like God was working on these steps through me and for me anyway. And I went to a women's night with my daughter, which was a really big win for us. She's been challenging, and so it's really, really awesome. But the basis of the sermon was changing your thought pattern and your process, and how when you have these negative thoughts that they become a habit, and actually does change your brain chemistry and the neural pathways in your brain, and it becomes habitual that you create these negative habits and negative thoughts, and it manifests in your reality. And how to live in truth of who God says you are. and things like that. And I had really realized that I had fallen into that. I was talking to Anthony a while back about, mundane. We were talking about this weeks ago, and how I had let a lot of stuff in my life that I was so excited about and stuff become mundane. Work was the example. I absolutely love my job and I'm blessed to have the best job in the world. I get to hang out with my friends all day and they pay me. It's great. So, but I just wasn't, not that I disliked my job, I just wasn't looking forward to it the same way. Or, with the stuff that's going on with my daughter and how she's moody and stuff. And I was kind of coming home expecting it to be bad. Examples like that. Big one was like, at home with my daughter, that I really realized that I was kind of focusing so much on the negative that I was creating a lot of that. When she'd have a tone that was a little off, I was in that reactive state. And so all this, I really felt that God was speaking to me about it. And then I hit crisis mode, right? So I finally realized I needed to change these thought patterns, get rid of the self-hate and change these thought patterns. And I hit, the crisis mode where I had a bad day. Woke up, knew it was going to be a bad day. It was going to be a hard day for me. It was an anniversary to the death. I knew it was going to be hard. I focused on the negative. It was a bad day. But now after having the group tonight, I kind of realized that I kind of needed to have that crisis mode, or, a little bit of that crisis. And I'm lucky that it wasn't a bad day, but that crisis, so that I become more aware of how much I need to change. And so I felt like that day made me really realize that, like, this is so much in my head and I have so much more control over this. And I can't let these negative, you have to, don't conform to, the patterns of this world, but be constantly renewed. And I really needed to do that, realizing I need to remove these labels that I've been, that I've labeled myself with, or that I feel that other people have labeled me with, which I think is a huge part of that too. I feel like people think I'm a mess, or that I think that other people have labeled me something, or I'm taking on something that maybe isn't there, and I'm dwelling on that. And I need to break up with that version of myself, or that version that I think other people think I am. Like you were saying, like, the mirror is constantly changing and it's, present. If I want to be awesome at work tomorrow, people will think I'm awesome. And I need to kind of break up with the labels I've given myself, have more of that fresh start and get out of like survival mode. I'm working on enjoying the journey. Said that I like enjoying the journey, like to start to experience joy again. And it's only been a little over a week since I was like crying in crisis mode, freaking out. But I feel like just over the last couple days, I've really been able to start to enjoy the journey and move from like crisis mode to journey mode, feel joy again, like, okay, and surrender and have hope again. Start looking at it like you were saying, like, focusing on good things and focus on all the little successes and focus on all the wins. I was short on whatever bill, and then magically this guy comes in and gives me my Christmas tip, even though it's the end of November. Or this guy who forgot to pay me and I forgot that he didn't pay me. And he's like, oh my God, 2.5 weeks later, and sends me the money, and I needed it that day. This kind of stuff just started happening like instantly. God has it. It's going to be okay. The money doesn't come in today, it's still going to be okay. Having that faith, trying to just enjoy the journey and feel joy again, and not, but having the faith and getting into that enjoying the journey mode and just finding the joy, like finding the joy today that sit at home and watch 2 episodes of Yellowstone. And it was awesome. But I felt like I've been in survival mode for so long. Right? You're just trying to get through the day, right? You're just trying to survive. You're just trying to get through to next paycheck. You're just trying to get to whatever, right?
And it affects your
Every little
speech. It affects your speech. It affects your action. It affects your thoughts. And then of course you get more of that.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, I love it. It's better to break up with yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I've fallen into this pattern. I used to be like the most uplifting, awesome, and that's how people describe me. And now, like, I just feel like there's a lot more negativity coming out of my mouth than there used to be. And that's not the person I want to be. And it's not what I want to sow into people. And I don't, as you were saying, I can still feel my emotion. I can still be angry, but I need to feel it and move on. I need to not dwell in it and spiral.
Yeah, feeling it, letting yourself feeling it versus rejecting it is much better, because then we feel it anyway. Thank you so much.
All right. I'm a chaser.
I
I do it when I'm stressed.
Yeah. I love what you said. So I wanted just to to check in with Tracy, because I think some of the things that Jess was talking about, you know, you and I talked about yesterday around the story, right? So a lot of coaches talk about stop telling the story. I like to break up with yourself because that includes the story.
I've been so immersed in what you all were saying.
You were talking
I don't
about
even
when
know
you
that I remember where you were, because honestly, I have just been absolutely immersed in what you all have said today.
sure. You were talking yesterday about how powerful it was to just tell a different story or
Yes.
stop telling the same old story.
Yes,
So I
I've
say break
had-
up with yourself, but that's all
Yes,
included.
I've had
Yeah.
people like really upset with me, like, you don't want to talk about it? Nope, I'm done. You know, and just I really just want to be done with telling the story. And honestly, and so I'm sitting here listening, and I feel like, yeah, I got to break up with myself again. So damn it, thanks for that, Anthony. Like, I done broke up with myself like 10 times in the past 3 days, so that's it. But yeah, that's true. And actually, since we've been sitting here, my stomach feels like it has just went into this holy knot, like I cannot even barely sit up. But the whole crisis mode, so my whole career, I was a crisis worker. I mean, really, you know, behaviorist. Okay, watch a behavior, tell them how to stop it. You know, it could be chaos, and I can walk in the middle of it and be like, I got this. Okay, I can deal with a crisis. I can remain calm in a crisis. But now try to get me to be calm and have peace and joy. I don't know what the hell to do with that. I say that's the life I want to live, but then when it starts getting closer, it's like maybe I'm deflecting. And that's really tonight where I'm like, oh, I feel like you just turned on every light switch in the room and the whole house is bright. And I'm like, okay, I've been called out. But yeah, I mean, just crisis. Like, I live in crisis. And when you get promoted for that, you know, yeah, I'll deal with that. I'll deal
It
with
just keeps
stress.
affirming that
Yes.
you're supposed to struggle.
Yes, she's great with that. I got you.
celebrated.
She'll deal with it. She'll be the staff person. She'll be the person you can call. She'll show up. Yes.
I used to, most of my life until my mid 30s, I would suppress my feelings. I was always told I was very mature for a child. Like when I was a kid, I was told mature. Well, why? Because I was suppressing my feelings. I was able to put on a show and act right in the middle of chaos and not respond. What happened is when the problem was gone, like whether I was performing or whether I was in the like experiencing crisis, I would then have debilitating abdominal pain afterwards. Like it was like, and I remember as a child, I remember knowing that when it hit me, when I tracked the fact that it was within an hour of something being done, I was like, oh, my body is now letting me have the experience that it was holding back before. And I knew that as a child and did not ever find relief for it until I became an adult and realized that was me and how I was internalizing my pain and my emotions. I was swallowing and suppressing. And again, you heard me say different quotes, right? Buddhism says you cannot remove a thought. You can replace it. You can't. So in other words, you can't suppress anything. Suppression will bounce back. There's an impact for everything we do. We are in an attraction-based universe, not assertion-based universe. So if you push something away, it's going to come towards you, right? You push it down, it's going to get worse and stronger. And then we see these diseases, actually physical illnesses manifest, and they are emotionally based. And no one wants to believe it until they get the cancer. Right. And then they know it's something else. It's in my genes. Well,
When
here's
you
another
were
one.
saying before, is anybody having migraines? And I'm like, yes, my head's about to blow up. I literally got off the meeting thinking my head's going to blow up. And
Yeah.
tonight I'm like, my stomach is just in a spasm, but it's because my body hears this. And I also, you know, one of the things that you said is because your body's responding doesn't mean it's a bad thing. You know, the old me might have thought, oh, this is something to pull back from, when really I just really need to question that again.
Well, you
know,
right,
that's
you like
something that you said before that really
yeah.
have to keep hearing, like, Tracy, this is a good thing. That
Remember you
you're
liked
thinking.
remember you we talked about the guts or beliefs video I did,
Yes.
right? Same
Yeah.
concept. How many times have you seen, or how many times have you said, oh, well, I had this interaction with somebody or this thing, they did this thing and I know something's wrong. Why? Well, my stomach, you know, I just felt it in my gut.
Mhm.
Okay, that's a sign that you're thinking about something that's off.
Yes, my
It's
thought.
not, remember, like what Michael Singer said, It's what is this disturbing thing mean to you?
Mhm.
What are you thinking about that's painful? Like the guy that woke up, right? My thoughts create this physical reaction that manifests in this pain and tears. And holy shit, I did that. When the whole pain point was around, no, it was being done to me. And it changed forever. So now when it comes up again, he's going to have way more awareness. So fuck yeah. I know we went over. You got something real quick, Danny?
Yeah, real quick. Chronic anxiety person here my entire life. I went to treatment for severe anxiety. When I started going through everything that I was going through with my kid's mom, I would wake up like out of breath, someone sitting on my chest, like just sick. And then when I did this work, my anxiety is eliminated to a point to where it's almost where I notice it and I can kind of filter whether or not I want to react to it. And so yeah, the point that I was going to make was that when you can let go of that thought, then you definitely can have the power of figuring out what you want to do with it. So yeah, that was cool.
Absolutely. Right. You're still the parent, but when it's if your pain is around how you're identifying with what that means. I'm a dad, I'm a father, I'm a man, I'm a blah, blah. That means this. If the pain is attached to that, that's the shit we have to let go. We're not lobotomizing ourselves, so we're not the dad anymore.
Anthony, a couple of comments.
I
I don't
froze
know
up.
if are you frozen or am I frozen?
No, it's me. Go ahead.
A couple of comments. I don't know if you were looking in the chat, and then I just
saw those just now.
randomly read that, and again, it's other people were in the same place of your body's physically feeling it and responding when you're not necessarily processing it. I just read it after I said that and thought, huh, somebody else, and how our group resonates with each other.
Yeah. And like Jess was saying, she was going through things even though she wasn't here for the last 2 weeks. And I was saying, I get the benefit of seeing how it's impacting everybody, whether they're on the call or not. Right. Because I'm having these conversations one-on-one outside of the group, and the spookiness is there. Right. Like I told the client who I've only met one other time in person. He walks to me at the freaking mall when I'm having a crisis moment. And he's like, meet my wife. And she's like, honey, this is my coach. She's like, she's like, oh my God, I've heard so much about you. Like they've been reading books together. They're sharing stuff together, right? All these beautiful, beautiful things are happening. And what's interesting is that the other party in his situation thinks that he's depressed, thinks that he's angry. And I'm like, they're right. It's like when a husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend, right? If we're experiencing two different realities, I'm not going to even see what you're going through. It's better to remove all of it and assume the best of you, assume the best of me. And if I don't see your divinity, if I don't see how sick you are, that's my problem and not yours. Great session. I love that I like it when it gets a little messy and then just find this groove. I used to say when I performed for a living, I would always make at least one mistake. And my performances were the best when I made it really, really early. Because I'm not trying. No, the idea of perfection is gone now. Right? So I just let go. So forget the first line, screw up the first song. You know what? And then all of a sudden it's the best show I had. Right? And no one even remembers it. If I didn't make the mistake, I'm waiting for one, and it's in the final song, in the finale. I'm like, damn it, that's the one place you don't want to do it, right? So you gotta let go, let go, let go, let go. We're all spiritual, we're all energy, we're all living in a hologram, we're all in a mirror universe, right? We all are part of the same whole, and the pain comes when we forget that. And we make excuses to think that you and I are separate. So love you all. I'll talk to y'all soon. Let me know if you need me. I'm here.